House of Kites by J.J. Colgrove. I am an artist. It feels like such a horrible thing to say while I don't have a resume to stand on. But I certainly spend a lot of time immersing myself into art, my own or another's, trying to figure out how to express myself in this way. I can get so caught up in achieving my goal that I make the mistake of believing that the only tool at my disposal is my will. I've recently learned to slow down, take old tools that I had left forgotten on one of the shelves in my mind palace, blow off the dust and get to work on solving a problem. Like a kite, sailing in the sky. The frame is flimsy, but it needs to be so it can be light. The sail is painted gold. It shimmers in the midst of the endless baby blue like a day star. Higher it goes. Yet so much depends on the thread tethering it to the spool. I am the blade that cuts the thread. I am the kite that torpedoes down into the earth, breaking beyond hope of repair. I am the set of hands that pulls the unrecognizable remains from the dusty rubble. Mine is the creativity that rebuilds. I am the storm that destroys. I am the dawn on the mountain that all pray for. I am the twilight on the town that all dread. Another mistake that I often make, I have written 5 screenplays, 1 novel, and countless short stories. Each time I undertook the tedious task of typing 1 letter at a time, I had the hope in my heart that one day these screenplays would become movies, and my novel would be published. Every time the project was completed and not brought further life, when my kite lost wind, I cut the thread. And while I remained in the rubble, waiting to be rescued by my own unaccountable hands, I lost more of my sanity. Then I sent another kite into the sky, only for it to fail. Each time it felt like I was a deranged man locked away in a cave, scratching words into a wall. Then, when I lamented this fact to my mother, she responded with wise words. What happens to you inside that cave has everything to do with what happens next. I have been encouraged to follow my dreams my entire life, but nobody ever talked about how it's going to hurt like hell when I kept on believing in something that only existed in my mind and in the future. My dream transcends acquiring money or laurels. There's so much more that I have to do. There are people waiting to stand on my thrown-back shoulders, to find an easier path to walk on in my long shadow. As I grew up, I heard sweet stories of the old days. Things sounded as if they had more meaning back then, but they were no less sorrowful. I heard many stories of how my people learned to live with getting by and wanting more. We are a culture of stoicism. We don't know how we feel, so we remain silent. I am not an Indian who romanticizes the past, because the heroes were killed by the jealous-hearted, and the heroes never rose again. They died in silence while those who stabbed them in the back lived to ripe age and power. Nobody stood up to them. Nobody stood up to the evil that doesn't have a body at all, but it has claimed the lives of many of my people. It has given wounds for others to suffer for the rest of their life. None came to rescue us. If they wanted to, they were afraid. And if they had the courage, then they didn't have the wit. And if they had the wit, then they had too much, and they feared the overwhelming odds. I love my home. Every inch of the mountains that stretch into the sky in all directions. The ancient trees, the wandering wildlife, every mossy rock in the river. The red-faced drunks, the sweethearts, the loners, the lovers, the fighters, and the criers. Those that love to hate and those that love to mate. The thinkers and the drinkers, the high and mighty, and the low and grubby. They're all a part of me as much as my own beating heart. It is for them that I even create kites in the first place, to remind them to look up. Things might be hard now, but we're growing, we're climbing, and it is beautiful. It is to them that my spirit is compelled to race toward with all speed. I am fearful that one day, when my flesh and the bones holding it up are beyond the command of my spirit, the world will look the same as when I was young, just as lost, just as scarred. But I'm foolish to be excited by the odds. Whatever is to happen between here and the promised land, I say, come what will. My demons are never defeated. Evidence of that is they tell me to cut my own tether. And still I listen. But I've been fighting my whole life, and I'll keep fighting the bastards. I'll tear them down with my hands. And if they take my hands, then I'll kick them down. And if they take my feet, then I'll bite them down. And if they take my teeth, then I'll stare them down. And if they take my eyes, then I'll curse them down. I may not be brave. I may not be good. I may not be smart. I may not win against the legions that besiege me. But I will meet them on the field of battle all the same. If this is the end, then I will make such an end as to be remembered, so that the generations yet to come can grow up in a world where they know that there was one who believed in the coming dawn, and he fought for it, so that the hungry could be fed, the thirsty could be quenched, the cold could be warmed, the weary could rest, and the lonely could finally be accepted, because he willingly immersed himself into hell so that he could make of his life a house of kites.